I thought I was going crazy until I found out I had FND. This is my story with FND and how it started. For me, it started when I was in freshman year of high school. I noticed I would get really dissociated in some of my classes, and I would feel like I was going to fall down. At this time, I never did fall, but deep down, I felt something wasn't right. But I tried to ignore it and hoped it would go away. And some days were better than others, but it never truly went away. Some days were more manageable than others, and it wasn't until my junior year that I was sure something wasn't right, because the dissociation got so bad that I could barely understand things that were being said to me. I would lose my hearing, and my vision would go blurry and dim around the edges, and I would get so dizzy that I had to lean on something to make sure I wouldn't fall down. And it got so bad that I was terrified to drive because when I got in my car, I would dissociate so bad that I could barely figure out how to drive my own car. And when I drove, I would nearly not realize that I was really there and the things around me were real. So many times I was so close to rear ending cars because something in my brain told me that they weren't real and they weren't really there. But right before I almost did, I would snap back and remember that in fact the things around me were real, and I would slam the brakes. But for me personally, I felt like I still wasn't real, and that stressed me out, and it wasn't till my way later that I started to feel myself again. But in some classes, it would slam back into me and I would struggle. All that got so bad that I was desperately trying to figure out what was wrong with me, but found no answers wherever I looked, so I tried taking things into my own hands. So what I
And
did
what I
was I
did,
tried right before going out to my car in the mornings, I would grab some ice in my hands and take it out to my car and hold it and drive with it in my hands. Doing that small thing helped me to stay with the reminder that I was real and could still feel things like the cold ice on my hands. And it also helped me remember that the world around me was also real. But doing that every morning wasn't always easy. I tried listening to music that calmed me down and helped me instead, and for a while that worked for me. And eventually everything was easier again and I struggled less with it. But as time went on, I noticed from the videos I used to watch, like for example, watching someone with Tourette's, I would mimic them and I couldn't figure out why. I would try to stop myself, but it was nearly impossible for me, and I felt really wrong for it because I didn't have Tourette's or anything like that. And it didn't feel voluntary, which just threw me through a loop, and I felt like I was a bad person for it. Eventually, my junior year, summer in June, I had a very stressful event happen, and the day after was when things truly kicked off for me. The day after that event, something in my body just didn't feel right, and it wouldn't go away. I told my dad about it, but he thought I was probably fine. And later that day, I went to my cousin's house, and I still couldn't shake that feeling. And a bit later, after being with my cousin, I felt a little weirder and I felt like I was dissociated, and that alone stressed me out and it made it harder to act normal. And eventually we got up and started walking towards the stairs, and I was about three-fourths of the way up the stairs when suddenly I just kind of fell down, like my legs gave out, and I was able to crawl the rest of the way up the stairs. And eventually I got up and everything seemed fine. So we went into another room where my other cousin was. So then it was me and my two cousins. And we were having regular conversation, but I still had that weird feeling in my body. And not long after we got into conversation, I noticed I was rapidly losing my ability to focus and comprehend what was being said. And then suddenly felt heavy, and I started to fall forward. But I couldn't move my body to stop myself, and that was scary because this was when reality set in, when I knew something was definitely not right. One of my cousins caught me and lowered me to the floor, and this was when I completely lost my body. It was terrifying because I was a completely different person. I was able to think mostly clear in my head, at least enough to know that I wasn't acting right. I was acting weird, like I was talking louder than normal, and I kept saying wow, and I was just overall acting like I was high, but I wasn't. Then my parents were called, and they arrived, and when they tried to pick me up, I would just go completely flaccid. I would just lose all control over my body that I had, and it was really weird. Then I was quickly taken to the hospital where I was wrongly diagnosed and sent to a better hospital by ambulance. Once there, I was asked many, many questions, mostly about if I had taken anything, and they were all proved wrong by tests. So then we were still in the dark of what was wrong, and it was a week of staying in the hospital with no answers, and with my body being very weak and barely able to move. And when people I liked would enter the room, like my brother, I would act crazy and loud, and it was weird and confusing. But eventually the doctors diagnosed me with functional neurological disorder, also known as FND, and I was told it was caused by trauma that I had lived in flight or fight mode for so long that eventually my nervous system broke. Then I went through physical therapy to see if I could do things at a level that I could live on my own, which apparently I was good enough that I was able to be released from the hospital very soon after, and then I lived my life on from there. I still have bad days, and good ones, but overall, I'm trying to stay positive and use my understanding of this disorder to help others with it, as there isn't much information on the disorder. So I want to be a light in others' worlds and prove that there is hope. And if you or someone you know has this disorder, I'm rooting for you. And you're strong. I believe in you. And that's all I have for now on my story. Thanks for listening.
Sea of empty voices, I long for connection, a hand to hold. The solitude is all I've ever known.